guys, welcome to today's video. It's going to be like, I was going to do like plant tours, but I was like, I'll just do a tour because I've not done a tour in ages. My plants are looking stunning, surprise, surprise. To be fair, my plants haven't looked stunning since I think pre-COVID, like before I got long COVID. I've been pretty good at plant care for the past couple of weeks, which I know doesn't seem like a long time, but I'm one of those people. Once the habit's built, I'm pretty good at sticking to it, but it's just the initial building phase, and I think it's doing well. So I was gonna like do a tour like round, but in here, I'll just hold my plants up to the camera because I kind of can. So this peace lily's in Lecker. I did a repot with me video like a couple of weeks ago. It's doing okay. The one in soil is doing better than this one. It's fine. She's just looking a little bit sad, and a few of the bits keep falling over, which is just Lecker for you, but there we go. So first up we have this Rhaphidophora decursiva. This is one of my newer plants, but it's not like new. There's a growth point here and a growth point here, neither of which seem to be growing. They both seem to have like dried out. They'll come back once. Basically, I wasn't watering it enough, which I think that's what's happened. I've watered them and I've not been diligent enough about pests. So this one's also dried up, but it'll come back. They're fine. This plant is just embarrassing. So this is my golden pothos. This plant has just never really seemed... Sorry, my hair's still wet. When it grows really well. Like, these leaves are massive and they're beautiful. But then some of the vines are just never really getting going. So it did have thrips for a long time. So that's like one of the issues. But like I've looked pretty carefully over it and I think it's okay now. But with thrips, you really have to just keep an eye on it because sorry, this is really not a flattering angle. Because they lay their eggs in the leaf. So all the thrips, you cannot see any thrips, but they'll be ready to emerge. So also, fun fact about golden pothos, and I think this is a fun fact, and I don't care if you don't think it is. So golden pothos don't flower. They're the only aroid that doesn't flower. So there is a hormone called, what's it called? Gibberellin, which causes them to bloom, and they actually add synthetic gibberellin to peace lilies to make them bloom before they're mature enough to do it by themselves. But golden pothos don't produce it. They come from French Polynesia, just like one island, and they've spread all over the world. Despite the fact they can't go to seed, they don't produce seeds, they can just crawl, and I just think that's really clever. They have got them to flower like artificially. The rest of the time they literally just like grow really prolifically and root themselves in the ground. Just thought that was cool. It is my ZZ plant. It's fine. It's got a spider living in the bottom here. This is new growth. It's literally just, oh god, it's just about to start growing for summer. It's quite dry. Hang on. These are self-watering pots. They've got like wicks at the bottom. I quite like them as pots. They're fine, but they're not. I think they're a little bit too big for the wick system. I can't remember what this is. I just know it is fast becoming one of my favourites. It's in Lecker, and I've recently repotted it because it basically a load of the leaves on its stem died here and it's already starting to regrow. God, it needs cleaning. And I just really like it. It's one of those plants that you either get or you don't, and I just like it. This is my Hoya Crimsonate. It's actually a Hoya Crinkleate, not a Crimsonate. I really like this plant. She grows really, really prolifically. She's in a tiny pot. It's really little. Oh, there's water in there. I don't know what to say. She's just cute. I've started being more diligent about cleaning the leaves. I've not been using anything to clean her, just those like makeup eraser cloths where you just use water. And she's just looking so shiny and nice. I have no idea what is going on with this plant. This is a Hoya Pubicarlix Silver Splash, and she has these weird yellow blotches on her. It looks like scarring. She feels pretty firm, and there's a texture to it. It's not like when the leaves go yellow from watering, but it's quite yellow, and I have no idea what's causing it. It's happening on a few of the leaves, so there's not really a lot I can do about it other than it's not like fungal. It could be fungal. I don't know what it is. It looks like pest damage. That's what I would say it was, just because this one I can see, if you like look over the top of it, I can see that it's actually damaging the leaf, but it's not on all of it. I don't know. If anybody has any ideas, let me know. It's not root rot. I've checked the roots and the roots are fine. Also, I don't water enough for that. This is my Dracaena. Me and this plant have been through a lot together. She's one of the first plants I ever got. I think I actually had her before I started getting into houseplants, so she would have had a rough start to life. She's extremely chill. She's in one of these self-watering pots that I'm not a massive fan of. They grow a lot better and faster in high light, but this is a north facing window and she's about 2 meters away from it and she's growing fine. Like the internodal spacing's a lot shorter than it usually is, so I'm guessing she's fine. And then we've got my Pilea peperomoides. She's fine, she's okay. She loves living under grow lights, like loved it. I've never known a plant react so much to just grow lights, because she's always had, this is the lowest light she's ever lived in, I think. She used to live like right in a west facing window, as much light as she could have needed, and she just really wasn't that bothered. But grow lights, not right under them, maybe a foot or so away, but she really liked them. So she's a little bit mad that I don't have them set up currently, but she'll be back under them once I do. This is a Begonia Caroline that grows a tiny leaf like this and then drops it. Sometimes we get one on here. She's probably preparing to grow one now, but we just allowed the one. I'm pretty sure she's actually an outdoor plant, but she's living in here now. I keep my thrips plants in the bathroom. They're actually doing okay because I've only got a few that have a lot. So I've got this monstera. Bless it, it's not doing well. I don't know why I have this moss pole in it. Not only do I have the moss pole in it, I've stuck the aerial root through. It does nothing because I don't keep that moss moist. This is my Monstera dubia, who's currently going through a tough time, but I've never known a plant more resilient. She just needs chopping back and all this taken off. She'll be absolutely fine. This is just cold weather damage. And then here we have, right, I always used to say Monstera are the worst for thrips, but it's definitely Anthurium paranervium. This damage isn't like that bad for thrips damage, and this is after years of just not shifting the thrips. You can see it's kind of worse on this one, but this is a newer leaf. And it's my fault, I've just never really stuck with it, but I've been washing this one off like these twice a week, and you can see she's already covered in the larvae. I just don't get it. But you know, I'll stick with it, and over time, I've not seen any adults in a while, but there's a lot of babies. But as I say, like the larvae live in the eggs are laid in the leaf, so it may take a while. This is my, she's leggy, she doesn't get enough light. This is my Philodendron Golden Dragon propagation. This leaf is actually quite variegated. First I thought it was thrips damage, but it's not, and I know it's not because I can see the thrips damage down the side. Like there's thrips damage on this side. It's not going to show up on camera. You can kind of see it, and then the other side's variegation. And please don't say it's all thrips damage, just let me live my fantasy. I don't know why, well, I do know why the petioles are so long. It doesn't get the light that it needs, but also they tend to have a longer petiole. They tend to just, if you have a Philodendron Golden Dragon, you'll know they just grow however the hell they want. This is a Philodendron Subhorstatum, which I love, but they hate me. I'm going to prop it at some point when it gets a little bit warmer, but they grow fine for a while and then they drop all their leaves and don't come back. This one is a leaf that I just ripped. It will be fine. Like, I think I might chop this into like as many nodes as I can and get it in a propagation box and just basically look after it better. All that happens is I don't water them and then their roots fail. Like, this is my, what is it? It's a Pothos Marble Queen. You're looking at the bad side. This is the better side. These moss bowls, I think they are the best like commercially available moss bowls that I've seen that aren't DIY. The only issue is you need to keep them moist. Ideally, you would get the water bottle and turn it upside down and do it that way. I just don't tend to do that, and I found what works better for me is just misting it every day. I try not to get the leaves. Marble Queen pothos aren't too worried about having wet leaves, but it's just better not to get the leaves wet because it stops them photosynthesizing. Luckily this one's in leca as well, so I can be a little bit less careful. I can't overwater it, it's satin water. And actually the water level on this one, leca's supposed to have a reservoir up to like a third of the way up, but it doesn't because I don't have a pot big enough. But the roots probably go further down, so. The only issue with this method is that the middle of the sphagnum probably won't get damp. I mean, it will over time because it'll like suck it through, but I don't think it matters that much if it needs to be wet all the way through. I only want the aerial roots to attach to the outside, so it doesn't really matter. I've gotten really bad for just leaving dead leaves on top of the soil. I'm actually looking around for a plant that I think would be a suitable candidate for it because I can't bother to go and find my bin. I'll just do it. This is a Philodendron Burley Marks. It's one of those that I bought really cheap because it had this like just wild It's got like at least 5 stems. Because it's got 5 stems and doesn't get a lot of light and I don't water it as much as I should, it had no leaves up until about 3 weeks ago. And then I started taking better care of my plants, and would you believe it's got about 1 million. This is one of those plants that would be absolutely stunning given the right care. So I am going to try my best. We've got like, there's a whole load of new growth going on. Where's it gone? Here. So yeah, there was also a bit of thrips damage, which is what's this like weird curly bit. Here is my begonia. Can't remember what sort of begonia it is, just a begonia. I love this plant, but it does the begonia thing where it only grows with begonia. You either have to hold their hand through every single leaf or they go absolutely wild. This one I have to hold its hand. I've got one downstairs that gets cut back probably weekly. Also this leaf is growing upside down just for funs. But when they produce the leaves, they look so stunning that I don't actually care that it'll grow another one and then this one will die, because it's just what it does. Right, so this is, I've got a philodendron lemon lime, a neon pothos. This is the pothos, and that's the lemon lime. Is that true? Yeah. I'd go through the differences, but because these are juvenile leaves, they all look really similar. But basically, the one that's a mess of like cataphils is the philodendron. And there's also a mandula pothos in here. Basically, they were all struggling and they were all looking awful. So I put them all together and they're actually doing okay. It doesn't look like they're doing okay, but they're doing a lot better than they were. Again, there was thrips damage. I think I've kind of got rid of most of them. I've not got rid of them, but I know where they are. I know where they are. I think the light is just about perfect. That's a south-facing window. We're maybe 1.5 meters away. But the new leaves on the mandula are like spot on. There's no like brown marks or anything. So she's doing okay. This is my little baby Hoya crinklate. I don't know what's wrong with it. I think I need to check the roots because it's getting a bit of yellow. There's yellow on the leaves and I need to check the roots. The issue might be that it's not in the leca. Okay, there's no string in there. That might be what the issue is. It's not getting any freaking water. That's not an issue in itself. Like I can just fill the water reservoir up more, but I'm an idiot. This is either an alocasia dragon scale or an alocasia amazonica. I have no idea. It's definitely alive. If they're dead, this bit, the corm just gets really squishy and basically just a dried out husk, but it's pretty firm. There are some, oh no, there's a couple of babies in there that are also, there's one that I just snapped. I was going to put it back. This is, oh God. I promise it's healthy. It's just been repotted. This is a lemon lime Dracaena and it was in pond for a really long time. I propagated it in pond because it was really top heavy and like bendy. So I just snipped it, put it in pond, like the root half and then this half. The root half died. The other day I just picked it up and it was just a hollow like shell. And this had barely any roots. Pond clearly wasn't the best medium for growing the roots. So I've put it in soil, but there's quite a lot of pon and leca at the bottom because I didn't want to freak it out too much. It's doing okay. It's still growing, but it just looks a little bit sad. I'm hoping it'll perk up in a few weeks once it like gets more established. We are in the same room. There's just a weird portion that's yellow and green. This one is some, I don't know what it is. It was sold to me as a monstera, but the name it was sold to me under was basically just a common name for Adansonii, so I don't know what it is. It's a plant with green leaves. This is my satin pothos. I'm basically hoping that since I'm doing this every day, over time, they will just become damper. This is my Peperomia Hope. She's not having the best time, and I was wondering why that was for a while, because she was like fine. She just seemed really spindly and she was getting plenty of light and stuff. And then I realised that she wasn't, I thought she was, this is mortifying. I thought she was like a silver colour, but she was just really, 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 really dusty and basically needed a full-on shower. So I'm hoping that she will sort of come back. This is one of the first plants I got like after I got into plants. It used to be huge. It used to be sort of half my height. And then it was kept in too dark of a room. And then half of it died. And I managed to propagate it and it came back okay. It attracts thrips and dust. I think it attracts dust and then it gets thrips. Before it had thrips, it had spider mites. So yeah. And the reason it looks really full and that's because it desperately needs repotting. We've not got any roots coming out the bottom, but it won't be long. This is another one that I'm not quite sure what it is. Oh, it looks terrible on camera. It looks okay in real life. It looks like it's meant to be this thin and spindly and leafless. Again, not quite sure what it is. Some sort of, let's say some sort of epipremnum. It's got epipremnum shaped leaves. Right, next up is my pothos enjoy, and this is the kind of plant that I don't know, do I just not see it? I water it and I care for it and dust it. But then, and I think it's fine, and then when I come to like show people, I'm like, oh my god, why do you look like that? Again, not quite sure why, because this should require the same care as Mandula pothos, surely. This actually gets less light, but the new leaves look like that. And what I try to do is think, if somebody sent me a picture of this, what would I think? Like, what would I tell them was the issue? And I would tell them pest damage. Yeah, I think it's pest damage. Oh, hang on, right. I've got new leaf down here. It's still got brown on the tips. What we may have here is possibly fertilizer burn, or maybe it doesn't like my water. I think it's probably that. This is another, I bought it because it was cheap and looked cool. It's a philodendron subhestatum. Is this hestatum or subhestatum? I think this is hestatum. It's a silver sword. Look at that new leaf. That looks painful. Here. Looks like a grasshopper. This is another one where it was just sort of gently neglected, but I think it'll come back fine. I mean, this is clearly an old stem and it's growing. You can tell that I've recently started doing something with it, can't you? These are just really slow growing. This is a Hoya kerrii variegata, and Hoya are slow growing. Hoya kerrii are even slower growing, and the one thing you can guarantee that makes a plant grow slowly is having it be variegated. The reason it's so small is I've basically taken a load of cuttings, but we do seem to have a new growth point happening here. I mean, it's never going to be a big bushy plant, is it? I don't know what it is. It's a philodendron. It has leaves. It has many leaves. Got growth points here, here, and here. I've only got one hestatum and one subhestatum, and they're accounted for. My squamiferum's down there. It's not a varicosum. What happened to my varicose? Oh, that's exciting, isn't it? And this is my squamiferum. Again, we've got a growth point here and a growth point here. You can tell it's a squamiferum because of the scary, hairy petioles. This is my schefflera. It's fine. It had a really, really rough year. It got thrips and just hated them, which, you know, that's fine. It's recently started to attract a lot of dust, which is not something it ever did before, and oh my god, it really, really needs a clean. So I'm going to dust that this afternoon. I think the thrips have gone, but you can see like they've damaged it a lot. Should be okay, should be okay. I had to cut off the top growth because they just looked awful. And then I've got another ZZ plant here. Excuse the holes in our walls, we had to have all our electrics redone. This plant, like, it was fine for ages, and then suddenly, like, it grew and grew and grew and then decided it wasn't. But it's got a lot more light than it did. I can only think it really didn't like the cold snap that we had, but it's weird that it's the one that's most affected because it's a ZZ plant and they don't tend to care. I've got a new growth point here, so I'm pretty sure once summer comes it'll be fine. And then this is my peace lily, variegated peace lily. This is a south-facing window, which I know is a lot of light for it, but it's shaded somewhat by this curtain. And I just want to see if the warmth will bring back the variegation. And then down here, this is, right, this looks terrible, but it's for a reason. So this is my Scindapsus trubii moonlight, and I basically took a load of cuttings to make it fuller. So if you look, there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I think there's 8 in there. I only did this last week, so they won't have any roots yet. It should be okay, but because I'm keeping the soil more moist, it is getting mouldy. Like, the mold's harmless, but it doesn't look great. There's a radiator just behind it, so like it's not next to it. Basically, it's getting the damp and the warmth enough to create mold, so yay. I'm just going to film this bit like this because the light in this kitchen is horrifically bad. So that's my Philodendron Brazil, and then there's my, right, that's Philodendron Brazil, that is my Hoya Bella. Philodendron Brazil currently looks very small because I took a load of cuttings that are in the living room, and they're both still pretty damp. I watered them a couple of weeks ago, but I am gonna keep the philodendron fairly moist-ish. Just want to see if she can put out a bit more growth. But the Hoya Bella, I am gonna dry her out probably until April, just because the dry period this time of year can really increase the amount of blooms that you get. And then this is my newest, oh, I hate these like monkey mask signs. It's such a weird thing to put, like, a monkey's not wearing a mask unless they are, like, and I've missed it. Anyway, this is I'm doing a video next week on the differences between Monstera deliciosa and Monstera adansonii. I got this just so I could show. I do have a Monstera adansonii, but it's currently a single node in the terrarium that's grown, I think, 1 leaf. It hadn't unfurled last time I saw it. It might have unfurled now, but I don't know if it's got any fenestrations in it. Anyway, this is pretty full. It's got like 1, 2, 3, 4. I think there's 5 stems in there, so I'm pretty sure for that it was a tenner. And it was a tenner from a more expensive garden centre, so it was not expensive, but it's like a chain garden centre. Right, here I am with Smaug. Also, I checked on the Adansonii, so it does have holes in it, but I don't believe it's fenestrations. I think it's just a couple of slugs I've got there. So yeah, this is Smaug. So Smaug is currently looking extremely sorry for himself because he was growing like a fool, so I've had to take a load of cuttings and I've just stuck them back in the soil, and I'm just trying my best to keep the soil moist. He's not the easiest propagator. I'm basically playing a numbers game here. I think I've got about 10 cuttings in there. He actually looks better than he did, not in terms of shape, but like his leaves just seem happier. Like this leaf, it just seems like a happy leaf. I've also had to repot this Hoya Carnosa Crimson Princess because she used to be up on those shelves, but she took it upon herself the other day to, oh, that's a better angle, to basically leap off it. So she's been relegated down here. She's been put in a heavier pot and repotted. Hoya do produce runners, and when she's decided that it's time, she'll start growing leaves. But also, like, a few of the vines have dried off. I can't decide if this is better light or worse light, so that's closer to the window but like round a corner, so, and I think she'll get more like even light throughout the day, so I'm hoping she'll do okay. But generally, if the leaves that they're producing have some pink in them, which this one does, zoom in Caroline, I tend to think that's okay, and I don't know if that's true or it's just something that I've decided because leaf stress causes pink. Leaf stress? Heat stress causes, and like light stress causes pink in plants. It may not be true. So this is a Tradescantia Nanook that I got for Christmas from my niece. She is, let's say, 10. This is a propagation box. We're not currently having the best time because it's been so cold. I've had to move it in here. It was even colder, but we're at that point where the roots are looking better, but the actual plants are looking terrible. I didn't even know I still had this Peru. And yeah, I realised it's looking horrific, but I'm just impressed it's still alive. There is a million little cuttings in here, and I'm just going to have to wait and see what happens. These are my Philodendron Brazil cuttings. Got one in Super Thrive, leca, fertiliser, just water, moss, soil with root hormone and just soil. I've also got one in the terrarium and one in the fish tank. So I just want to see which one's rooting faster. None of them are rooting fast. We're in what, February? Terrible time to propagate. Over here, I have my big Monstera. I hope at some point she decides to produce more leaves. That's not really her thing. She just likes growing like phenomenally long petioles. But, you know, this year. And then here we have my, what's this? Rubber plant Tinique? Tinique, whatever. Then there's a burgundy one. What are you? Monstera Thai Constellation, looking beautiful. This is not beautiful. It's water with, this is Java moss. It looks gross, but she really likes it in there, so I'm not gonna disturb her. So this is my Philodendron Florida. She's actually currently growing pretty well. She's got a new growth point here, new growth point here, and then there's one back here somewhere there. And then my Rhaphidophora tetrasperma, who, like my Pilea peperomoides, is also throwing a hissy fit because she's not under the lights. So this leaf here was grown under lights, and then the other leaves weren't. So you can kind of see there's quite a difference. I've just got, she's not attached to the bookcase, she's literally just wedged here, which is working fine. And then up here we have my Hoya something black edge, something like that. Hoya parasitica black edge. Ah, it wasn't a bad guess. This was neglected for a very long time. They were all neglected for a very long time. Hey, what are you doing? And that is all of my plants, apart from the one in the terrarium, apart from the ones in the terrarium, which I can't film because it's a nightmare to do it. It's just the wrong height, it's the wrong size, it's just a nightmare to film. I need a tiny drone and then I just scare the frog and the geckos. And it's a 2-person job because you need somebody to hold the lid open. I'll do a dedicated video at some point when I can work out the best way to film it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!